I can't challenge men to face their fears if I'm not willing to face them myself. I will not do that. And there's things that I'm doing now and things that I'm stepping into that frankly scare the shit out of me. But what I know is if I step into the fire, 100% of the time, it leads me to where I need to go. That one phone call that you haven't made, that uncomfortable conversation, that lie, if you will, that you're buried, that you don't think anybody knows. Trust me, rip all this stuff up. Why is it so hard for people to tell the truth? Most people lie. Why? Because there's a story and attachment. Who would I be? What would happen? She's gonna go away. He's gonna go away. I'm gonna lose the deal. So this is why most people live a life as a performance. Life is happening for us, not to us. I'm not gonna beat myself up for something that I did 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I'm gonna let that go. That's not who I am, that's what I did. I'm gonna trust that if I step into this unknown, I'm gonna figure it out. Well, welcome to the Burn Up Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Nugent. What if I were to tell you that for everything that you want in life that you don't have yet, or to be whoever you want to be, is actually not about doing more. It's really rooted in letting go. A word that's used a lot to describe letting go of something is surrender. What if that's actually the key? That's the root of what each and every one of us needs to do in order to be who we want to be or have what we want in life. That's what I want to talk about today. Now, I'm a true believer in this concept, and I've seen it in my own life. I've seen it in the life of my clients. I've seen it in the life of my sons. I truly believe that we are at 100% capacity all the time. All the time. You know, you might have said this or heard somebody say, you know, I only had 20% to give or only had 50% to give. Bullshit. You are at 100, I'm at 100. We're always at 100% capacity. And if we want more, actually, I want to go on this a little bit more. So for example, let's say you're exhausted, right? You're just tired. You haven't been able to get up to go to work. You didn't get to work out. You're just going through the day, going through the motions, and you weren't able to accomplish a lot of things because you are so exhausted, right? You're at full capacity. Your exhaustion, your adrenals are shot, whatever it happens to be. You're stressed out of your mind. You have stories, fears, whatever it happens to be. It's all of that that's contributing to the fact that you weren't able to show up in the way you wanted to show up. So if we're always at full capacity, so stay with me on this. I want you to go down this journey with me, because when you start to recognize this, you will see that you can move through things quicker and you can become who you want to be in a much faster, exponential way when you understand this concept of letting go. So, for example, right, let's, I shared this last week on last week's podcast, because this is a big thing that affects a lot of people. Losing weight and getting in shape. I think we can all agree that it requires eating healthy, right? Exercise, be in a caloric deficit. I don't need to tell you what you already know. So why are the majority of Americans overweight? Why is the obesity rate as high as it is? Why? The formula is simple. There's nothing necessarily, complex as it relates to losing weight. So what is it? Right? Last week, I talked a lot about this. It's our attachment to food. It's using food as an addiction. But I will tell you that I have found this in my own life and other people's lives, and the men that I work with, is at the root of it is there are core beliefs, right? That you're not worthy of success, not worthy of physical health. There's a worth issue. And I believe this is an unconscious belief. I don't think most people are walking around feeling, hey, I'm not worthy of this or I'm not worthy of that. But just the thought that's there, right? If you're able to let go of that thought, it creates the space to be able to move into it. Take fear, for example. Fear is real. I always say fear is a calling. But what prevents certain people from doing certain things? My three sons, well, actually, all four of my sons do door-to-door sales in roofing, mobile detail, and I have conversations with them. They have teams, and many young men that work on their team, some of them are crushing it. Some of them do phenomenally well. Some of them are really struggling. Those that are struggling have fear of, that guy that's going to answer the door and rip their head off, fear of rejection, fear of not making it, fear, right? So fear keeps us stuck. So, but again, if we can let go of the fear, we're able to move through things, right? Think about it in relationships. Think about in anything, like you're a single guy. You want to put yourself out to date, but you don't put yourself out there because you're scared she's going to say no. What is she going to think, right? There's all these different things. There's these beliefs that you have embedded that are preventing you from doing what you're doing. And just because you believe something doesn't necessarily make it true. It's the letting go that is the most painful piece of it, because much of our identity is supported by these beliefs. So for example, if I don't feel worthy of love, no matter what, if I'm married, whether my wife, girlfriend, partner, whatever, no matter how much she shows up for me, no matter what she does, if I have an unconscious belief that I am not worthy of love, I will unconsciously push her away because I don't believe it. Internally, I don't believe that, no matter how she shows up. If someone doesn't question their worth and feels worthy of love and has a partner that's showing up to them, magic happens. If a person feels extremely worthy of love and has a partner that doesn't show up the way they need to and has the strength to be able to speak and share their needs, and their partner doesn't meet them, someone who's worthy of love is willing to walk away from that relationship because their worth's not in question. What's the core of that? It's a belief. And we have to be able to let those things go. It's the letting go that is so painful. So painful. I'm going to share a couple experiences today, one personal, one with my son, just in the last week. This stuff is raw. And I just want to be able to really explain that and share some personal details and things that you can take away. And really, I want you to really sit with this idea is like, what is it that I need to let go of in order to have what I want or be who I want? What do I need to let go of? That, so much easier said than done. I did a video about this on social, just on a whim a few weeks ago. And some guy, I don't know who it was, commented and said, I agree with you, but so much easier said than done. Of course, this is the hardest part because our identity is rooted in it. If we have this core belief, for example, again, that we're not worthy of success and we're struggling in our business, right? Well, unconsciously that's keeping us stuck. Now, if that all of a sudden goes away, now we don't necessarily have an excuse or a belief that keeps us where we're at. So in many ways, those limiting beliefs or unconscious beliefs that aren't serving us are actually supporting our identity and can be looked at as, if you will, an excuse as to why we are where we are. So when you let that go, then there's no excuse. And it's like, oh my gosh, what do I do with this? It's uncomfortable. It's extremely uncomfortable. So I'll share something personal that's happened to me, and this is raw, and I'm not going to share all the details because it is literally fresh and I'm in the moment of this. But my core childhood wound, and I believe in generational trauma, and I believe that this stuff can pass on for generations because it happened in my case, is that I'm not enough. That is my core childhood wound. That is my father's core childhood wound. It is his father's core childhood wound. And I believe a lot of people, I'd say most people in one form or another currently feel that or have felt that they're not enough, that they're not worthy, if you will, is another way of saying it. Well, I remember when I went to therapy 10 plus years ago for the first time. I was married at the time, and my therapist looked across the room at me and she said, Adam, do you feel worthy of love? No one had ever asked me that question. Never have I ever been presented with that question. Wasn't even conscious in my mind. And it was one of the rare times in my life that I didn't have an answer. I just sat there. And my not answering was the answer. And the truth was I didn't. And that was a very pivotal moment that took me down this path of feeling worthy, not questioning my worth. A lot of people that are raised in Orthodox religion, worthiness is attached to, checking boxes. Are you doing A, B, C, D, and E? And if you do that, you are considered worthy in the eyes of God to enter the temple, to go to the church, the synagogue, whatever happens to be. Worthiness is a checkbox. It's outsourced. And you will hear me say this over and over and over is you are worthy. Each and every one of us are worthy no matter what, period. There's no fine print. There's no, hey, only if you do A, B, C, and D. No, we are all worthy, period. End of story. And I've worked really, really hard to overcome that. 10 plus years of that. Well, what's interesting is a lot of times, especially in relationships, this will come up. Am I worthy of love? I've been divorced now, 8+ years, right? And throughout my marriage, I didn't feel worthy of different things. And my worth was tied to money. My worth was tied to success. Everything was that. I built an empire on stilts. If I showed love by throwing money at things. I filled the voids in my life with money. Money was everything to me. Unhealthily so. Extremely unhealthily. So several years ago, I lost my business in a very public way. I've talked a lot about this, right? So I not only lost business, not only people were affected by this, I lost my identity. It was who I was, or so I thought. And the pain of sitting in that, wow, you talk about You talk about really sitting in your shit. It's like, who am I? And the letting go of that belief that my worth is tied to money was extremely painful. And most men, I would argue, in one form or another, tie their worth to how much money they have. They just do. It's programming. You got to provide. You go out to the state. You have to do all the things, right? In a business networking meeting, it's like, who's got the biggest dick? Who's driving the nicest car? It's a showboat. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. The flashy cars, the nice clothes, the role, whatever it happens to be, right? Comparison, comparison, comparison. And many men live in this cycle of not feeling like they're enough. They get on social, they see somebody posting whatever, they're not that guy, they're scared, whatever it happens to be, there's a lot of comparison. And society has taught us that your worth is based upon how much money you make. I always laugh at the comment, people will say this all the time. It's like, who would you be if you didn't have your money? Who would you be? I was literally at a retreat, I don't know, a couple months ago, and this group, they did this breakout session and they talked about this, and I was listening to everybody share what they did, and they were, or how they would see themselves or what they would do if that were to happen. And the truth is, none of them had ever experienced it. And I just kind of laughed, because unless you've experienced something, you just don't know. And the truth is, until you're actually in that, you just don't know. But then when you're actually faced with this, you're just like, holy shit, who am I? Who am I? And so I've been working really, really hard. And what I have found here recently is, I, with my ex-wife and co-parenting, we've had, for the most part, a pretty healthy co-parenting relationship. The first few years were challenging. We got to a great place, great friends, but there's been this underlying thing for me tied to money. She has her own stories and beliefs. I have mine. I'm not going to get into the details of them, but what I have found, and this has just come to the light today, in the last several days, and there's been this deep mourning that I have been experiencing on recognizing that all the work that I've done, I do this for a living. I help guide men into this. I realize that there's still a piece of me. I've known this woman for 25 years, been divorced for 8. There is still a piece of me that has tied a part of my worth onto how she sees to me, how I provide, being affected by the way she sees things or does certain things that frankly aren't accurate, but nevertheless, it's triggered me. And I believe any trigger that we have is ours. There's something that we're connecting with, period. We are responsible for how we feel. So if somebody says something that we don't like, that we feel uncomfortable, that we feel offended, right? If we take offense to anything anybody says, it's because there's a part of us, either consciously or unconsciously, that connects with it. So again, for the last 10 plus years, I've been letting go of this belief that I am not worthy, that my worth is not tied to money. But my relationship with her today, besides co-parenting, is there still is a child support component. There's still all these different things tied to it. So there is a money, if you will, cord that the two of us have connected. And because of things that I've gone through financially, when our alimony and child support and all that was established, I was making a hell of a lot of money. Well, I don't make anywhere near that today. And yet I didn't make certain decisions. I didn't change things that I should have done years ago. And I've been asking myself, well, why? And what I've been recognizing is there should have been some adjustments and some things made a long time ago, but I didn't do it because there was a part of me unconsciously that's been under the surface, wanting her just to see me and all the efforts that I have done, and not just the focus on what I have, what I haven't done. It's been extremely painful, very mourning. I believe, and I've talked about this a lot, those that really follow this show, I talk about the inner dialogue with, our inner child. Every one of us has it. My high school nickname was Nuge. So I have conversations with Nuge all the time. And you have to talk to that side of ourselves with love. You have to meet that side of ourselves with love or compassion. I'll give you an example. If you happen to be, let's say you're up in the middle of the night, exhausted, you can't sleep, right? Have you ever noticed that you've gone down some rabbit hole and you've been awake for 2 or 3 hours or whatever, and then you just recognize that it's 3 a.m., and then you get pissed, you get angry, it's like, I just want to be asleep. What happens when we get angry? What happens when we judge it? If you notice that actually it intensifies, the lack of sleep intensifies, we're frustrated, we're angry. And what I've learned, just using that as an example, because I think all of us have been there, is if I'm in my head and I'm worried, I have anxiety, I'm stressed about whatever, the way that I work through those emotions is that's just the inner child. That's Nuge. That's little Nuge that's like screaming for attention. Think about what a little kid does. A little kid acts out. Why does a little kid scream, cry? For attention. You notice, those of you that have had kids or everybody recognize this, a kid that's screaming and crying, what's he or she really asking for? To be picked up, to be comforted, to love on. Well, we have that inside each and every one of us. And so what I've learned at night, and I'm making this up, when I start to meet that side of me with compassion, literally I'll have this inner dialogue. I'm all, Nuge, buddy, I hear you. Thank you for being concerned. Thank you for this. Listen, it's 3 a.m. We can't make that call till the morning. We can't deal with this. Like, let's just go to sleep. And so I calm that side of me. And I'm not kidding you. I can fall asleep within 30 seconds where I was down a rabbit hole that had no ending to it. And the old me would be in that for hours and hours and hours, stress, anxiety, whatever it happened to be. And I'd finally fall asleep out of pure exhaustion, just like, and get a horrible night's sleep. And then you wake up in that same energy. So it's learning how to love on that side of us, our inner child. So an invitation to you is whatever your nickname was as a kid. Maybe it's a middle name. Mine was Nuge. If your name's Brian, little Brian, whatever it happens to be, learn to meet that side of you, because we all have that inner child in every one of us. All you adults, they'll say sometimes that, people that aren't aware of how they show up in the world are just the inner child's taken over in an adult body. But when you meet that side with love and compassion, right, you're able to move through things quicker and you're able to not attach to certain things. And so what's happened here is I've been working through some things in my own personal life with my ex-wife, tied to some financial things. I have been loving on that side of me, holding him. So many tears. It's been very, very emotional. But what's been happening throughout this entire process is, and a huge breakthrough just even last night, is letting go. Letting go that my worth is tied to how she sees me. Letting go that if I'm not able to do A, B, C, and D, that doesn't mean that I'm less than. It just means that I'm human. It's been this process, this inner process that I've been going through for a couple of weeks now of letting go of that story, of letting go of however she happens to see me. That's her. She can have her experience, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's mine, and not attaching to it. It's been extremely painful. And I didn't recognize that was the underlying thing, the root, if you will, of what was going on with the dynamics of her and I. And I feel so much lighter today by recognizing it, addressing it, not judging it, but loving on that side of it. Here's the truth, guys. All of us have shit. All of us have a dark side to us. I always joke, all of us have a serial killer in us. Think of that voice in our head, the negative talk, whatever. Everybody has something. Anyone tells you otherwise, they're lying. Everybody has something. But learning how to love on that side, learning how to embrace that side, and learning how to use it and yield it to get you where you want and to have what you want. You've got to be able to let go. If you're going through a breakup, let's say a divorce, or you've been in a long-term relationship, it's painful. I think love is one of the most painful things. Heartbreak is real. But what are we mourning? We're mourning a lot of things, but with the divorce, no one, in fact, I know one guy that did this, but almost every person that gets married doesn't get married with the idea that it's going to end. They don't get married with the idea of like, I'm going to do this and it's going to be over by this day or whatever, right? So what are we mourning? We're mourning the future. We're mourning the possibility. We're mourning all the things that we thought we were going to do that aren't there. And how much of our identity is wrapped up into all of that, right? And yes, there's the attachment, there's the physical touch, there's all the different things associated with it. But much of the mourning that we also experience is that many times we can feel like, oh, I'm never going to feel this way again. I'll never experience love like this. I'll never experience connection like this. This idea that it'll never be as good as it was. You ever felt that way? It'll never be this good, ever. or we're going through something really challenging, whatever it happens to be, a difficult season, financial stress, physical health, whatever, that somehow it's our attachment to whatever we're going through is bad. And that this is the end of everything, right? When we resist, and much of it is the resistance to what is happening. So this financial thing that I've been working through with my ex-wife, what I've recognized, again, wasn't conscious, but now it's more apparent than ever, is there was a ton of resistance to it. A ton of resistance to it. I don't want her to see this way. I don't want to let her down, whatever it happened to be, but there was so much resistance. And part of this process as I've been moving through this and in not attaching my worth to it has been massive, but it's also been just accepting what is. When we accept what is, it doesn't mean we like it. It doesn't mean like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. It's just when we accept what it is, it loses its power. It takes part of the edge off. And in many cases, it takes a lot or all of the edge off. When we can accept what is. Again, a lot of people say this, I'll say this, right? It's like life is happening for us, not to us. What happens when we're not accepting what is we step into that energy of life's happening to us. I don't like this. I don't want to do this. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Well, when we can learn to accept it, it's like, I don't like this. I actually hate this. Now, what do we do about it? What's the next best step that I can take? When we can accept what is, that is a part of letting go. That is a part of surrendering. When I can accept whatever circumstances I'm dealing with and not attach my worth to it, not attach my identity to it, again, easier said than done. But when I can get into that headspace, then I can make decisions from a much more grounded place, and then I can move forward. We're not, most of the things that happen to us in our life, a lot of things happen to us that we didn't ask for, right? You drive out, you get in a car accident, right? Smash your car to death, you got to pay all these deductibles, whatever. You get hurt, you're in the hospital, whatever. It's like you didn't, and someone ran a red light and hit you. Well, you didn't go out and, necessarily, hey, cause that, but it happened to you. So what do you do about it? You can sit in your hospital bed, fight it, scream, be pissed, all the different things, and all those emotions are healthy. But if you stay in that, it just keeps you stuck. And then learning how to move through it. You will find people that will heal through things faster, move through things quicker when they can just accept what is. And then there's another level. And what I'm choosing to focus on, easier said than done, I want to be very clear, is looking at everything that everything is positive. I don't understand everything. There's a lot of horrible things in my eyes that happen in the world today. And maybe saying it's positive is going too far, but everything has a purpose. Everything. My logo, if you can see it there behind me, right? It's a man coming out of the flames, like a phoenix rising, burn up. If I look back on every challenging thing that I have experienced in life, every single one of them, and I've experienced a lot of big, massive, uncomfortable things in my life, in every pillar, I can tell you without question, 100% of the time, that each one of those moments were gifts. I just didn't see it at the time. And when I've been in very painful seasons, there's been moments where I can't take the heat of it. And what have I did? I numbed out. This is why a lot of men turn to addiction, right? They don't like what's going on. They can't accept what's going on. They numb the pain and it keeps you stuck. Trust me, I know. When I went through the pain of losing my company, I was numbing out on whatever I could possibly find. The pain of it, my identity, all of it was too much to hold. And I love on that side of me that had to do that. But the truth of the matter is I prolonged my pain. The amount of shame and guilt was self-inflicted because I could not accept what was happening. I could not accept it. Painful. So much love for that side of me. And I created a lot more pain than I needed to. The amount of pain that I was feeling because I was not willing to let go. I was not in a headspace. I didn't have the tools. It was such a huge thing. I didn't know what to do with it. And so I just numbed out. And those temporary moments of relief, I mean, they only lasted so long. So then it's like, what else can I find? What else could I get? Just to be able to completely sit in my feelings was at the time was too painful. Now I've learned it's like when I'm in a very painful season of going through this, like I'm raw dogging it. I'm not going to check out. I'm going to sit in it. I'm going to allow myself to feel it. I'm going to be angry. I'm going to be sad. I'm going to feel every single emotion that I can possibly feel, because I know from experience that if I allow it to move through me, it won't keep me stuck. And the minute I turn to something to numb it or to make it go away, it keeps me stuck. I know it from experience, and I know it doesn't serve me, even though I want it. Trust me. The last couple weeks, trust me, I have wanted to check out, and I've consciously chosen not to. The pain of some of these things relative to what I've been through have been even more painful, more extreme, because I've allowed myself to feel it, but I've been able to move through it so much quicker. And when you're in it, right? Someone can say, oh, I was in this for 2 weeks. Well, 2 weeks when you're in just the shit could feel like 20 years. I was in this literally for 18 months of this numbing cycle. If I could have just ripped the Band-Aid and had the courage to do all of it, I mean, I couldn't do it. But I'm never going to do that again because of what I did to myself. So coming back to this concept of just letting go. I'm a huge advocate in the right setting for psychedelics and plant medicine. And my ayahuasca is the one that I've got a phenomenal relationship. I've done it several times. And when you partake in an ayahuasca ceremony, it's usually done, depends on where you go. Sometimes you can go, to Costa Rica and other countries, and it's a week-long experience. There's other opportunities where typically it's a couple days. And many times when someone steps into a ayahuasca ceremony, if it's over a 2-night period, the first night is literally and the way I explain our ayahuasca is it takes your subconscious, your conscious, and the divine, God, whatever God is to you, puts everything in alignment, and then rips away all the stories. And you just got to sit with the truth, the real truth, not the fabricated stuff, the real truth. And that truth can be very painful. It can be extremely painful. But what I have found many times is in that first night, the first night is really a night of release. In the medicine, you recognize parts of yourself that aren't serving you, beliefs, people, behaviors, and you got to sit with that, and it's painful. Ugh. And then you recognize it. You can't unsee it when you see it. But what happens is that it pulls out the parts of you. So then, on a second night, then all of a sudden you get to see the visions, see the upside, see all these incredible things, get to recognize, get to see you in your highest self. But in order to be able to have that, it creates, what plant medicine does is it's like drinking from a fire hose. So it opens up the space. It presents to you, because it's you and you, the things that are holding you back. Now, I coach my sons, and I've got his permission to share this. Literally, just this last weekend, I had a very intimate experience in guiding my 19-year-old son through a psilocybin journey. He has felt stuck. I mean, limiting beliefs and some things he's been working through. And we've been coaching, and just things haven't been clicking. And sometimes when things can't click, right? This is where, again, he's experienced it. I'm experienced in it. I felt safe in doing this with him. And the breakthrough and the experience that we had there was one of the most incredible experiences I've had as a coach, I've had as a father, and I've had as a man. To be a witness and to be able to guide somebody who I love and care about deeply through the process of identifying the things that are holding him back. And they're just stories, and they're just beliefs. Some of this goes back to childhood. It's tied to his brothers. It's tied to things that he's attached to. And he was able to experience this and recognize it, and then watching the emotions come up. And I saw a light in his eyes I've never seen, like this energy. And he's like, I've never felt like this before, And for those of you that have done plant medicine, whatever that euphoric experience or, dark night of the soul experience, whatever happens to be, the actual work in plant medicine is the easy part. It's like you see the movie. When I first did ayahuasca, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, the way I would explain it to people is like, take a big popular movie like Pirates of the Caribbean. Jerry Bruckheimer was the producer to that. So the way I articulate it is, let's say that movie doesn't even exist. Jerry Bruckheimer goes into an ayahuasca ceremony, and during the ceremony, he watches the entire movie. He sees it from start to finish. Again, not been created. He watches the movie. He goes, oh my gosh, this is going to be the greatest blockbuster ever. So he's in his experience, And then all of a sudden the experience ends and he's still the same man. He saw the vision. Now he has to go do the work. Now he has to integrate, if you will, that experience into real life. Now he has to write the scripts, raise the money, hire the actors, do all the work. He saw the finished product. Now he's got to go do the work. And this is where a lot of people that step into this space, they have the euphoric experience, godlike experience, whatever it happens to be, but then they don't integrate. And I will not step into this space. I will not do this space without integration. I geek out on it. I think it's the critical part of it. But what's been fascinating, I mean, it's only been a few days, but my son is flying on cloud nine, and he knows from experience and from teaching and coaching that it's like, this is where the real work is. He's made huge life decisions. I mean, he is just on fire. And he said something yesterday that, I said, how you feeling? Had a conversation with him. He goes, I've never felt this way before. And he goes, and I keep finding myself wanting to go back to how I was feeling before. He goes, and I just can't even go there. And then he goes, why would I? Fascinating. 19, the awareness this kid has, blown away. Remember, you can't change something unless you're aware of it. Going back to what I started with this when it was presented to me, my therapist said, do you feel worthy of love? I didn't even know. But all of a sudden she asked the question. Now it's in my awareness. It's like, holy shit. Well, that took me down a rabbit hole. And here I am 10 plus years later, and there's still a piece of it that's there. Fascinating. There's layers to this. So in order to change, we have to be aware. And many times we're not aware of these things. And so plant medicine, psilocybin, ayahuasca, I mean, there's a number of them in a very guided, safe space with the right people doing it. Like, it can be an accelerant, if you will. It can help show you things. It's not for the faint of heart. It is not for everybody. I'm not advocating it for everybody. But for me, it has been transformational. I'm such an advocate for it. My 3 older sons have sat, and where all 3 of my boys are on trajectories. And again, I'm not just saying this because I'm their dad, but the growth that I have seen in them has been incredible. And the advantage that somebody younger has versus somebody that starts in their 40s is, frankly, they don't have the level of trauma and all the bullshit that those of us that are in our 40s or 50s have experienced. When someone steps into that space for the very first time, there's a lot of letting go. There's a lot of life. They don't have that. Yes, they have some, but not the same degree. So the clearing for someone that's younger that steps into this space, that's why I'm such an advocate for someone that's younger and they're ready, again, not for everybody, is they don't have as much to release. They don't have a lot of the embedded things that we have as being older. I mean, I can't even imagine where I'd be in life if I would have started this journey 25 plus years ago. So it's this concept of letting go of the stories, letting go of people, behaviors. If you're in a marriage right now and you're doing everything you can and it's toxic and you're not, and you're like, I can't leave. I'm going to hurt the kids. I'm going to hurt the kids. Like, you have all these stories and these beliefs that are keeping you there. What if actually leaving the marriage is the greatest thing, not only for you and your wife or your wife and your husband? What if that's actually the best thing? What if everything's happening for a reason? What if you choose to look at everything's positive? I don't like this. I don't understand this, but I'm going to trust the universe. I'm going to trust God that the next best thing that's going to come to me is actually for my benefit. It's for my good. And as I said earlier, everything that I've been through, everything has been this beautiful gift. The way I like to articulate it, from a visual perspective is, on Christmas morning, right? There's all these beautiful wrapped presents. And then imagine behind all of it, there's this box that's been duct taped, right? Looks like a box that got, lost in UPS for 10 years. It just looks, there's nothing sexy about it. And it's the last thing to get open. So you go to grab it, you're ripping the duct tape off in it. Then there's another box, and you're like, what the hell is this? The presentation's horrible, it's ugly. But then when you get to the root of it, when you open it up, there's a diamond inside of it. The most valuable thing in the world. The greatest gift, but you wouldn't have recognized it or seen it in the moment. You just dismissed it. I don't want that. Who put that there? Now then take that example in your life. So for those of you that have experienced challenges, heartbreak, business failures, loss of friends, loss of identity, public humiliation, shame, whatever it happens to be. I'm not saying you want to do that again or go through it, but if you look back on it, were there some gifts in it? Married for 17 years. I'm so grateful for that. And what I'm grateful for more than anything is all the negative stuff, all the toxic stuff. You know, the reality is I would not have appreciated love, sex, intimacy, and connection had I not experienced the opposite when I was married. I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know what I was missing. I had no idea. And what I've learned, and I continue to prove to myself, is that like that formula works all the time. It works all the time. Fear. If I'm scared of something, I work with this. I mean, my tagline is freedom is in the fire. I can't challenge men to face their fears if I'm not willing to face them myself. I will not do that. And there's things that I'm doing now and things that I'm stepping into that frankly scare the shit out of me. But it also, there's a part of me that gets turned on by it, that gets excited about it. But what I know is if I step into that unknown, if I step into the fire, 100% of the time, it leads me to where I need to go. 100% of the time, it's never as bad as I thought it was going to be. That one phone call that you haven't made, that uncomfortable conversation, that lie, if you will, that you're buried, that you don't think anybody knows. Trust me. Like rip the mask off. You'll hear me say this all the time. Rip all this stuff up. Why is it so hard for people to tell the truth? Most people lie. Why? Because there's a story and attachment. Who would I be? What would happen? She's going to go away. He's going to go away. I'm going to lose the deal, whatever. So this is why most people live a life as a performance. Most people, and I was this way from a lot of my life, as I was an actor. I would show up this way. I would show up that way for this person, that way, this way for that. Say what they want to say. Why? Trying to control the narrative so they can see me. I don't want confrontation. What would happen if I disagreed with them? Who would I be? I mean, this kind of stuff happens all the time. I mean, I can spot a lie from a mile away. Why? Because I'm a good liar. I don't lie today, but I know it. I know the energy of it. I know both sides of it. And when you've been in that pain and out of integrity and all the different things, whatever it happens to be, it's like, shit, I don't want to go there again. I'd rather you hate me, not like me, disagree with me, whatever it happens to be, before I will violate my core values. And then again, bringing it back, what I'm experiencing right now personally, that I shared at the beginning, the example of my ex-wife and some of the things I'm working with. It's like, you know what? I'm finally in a place like, I'm going to let that go. I'm going to rip off the Band-Aid. You can have your whatever experience and belief around me. It doesn't define who I am. It doesn't define who I am. I get to define who I am. You get to define who you are. So if you look at where you're at in life and you feel stuck, whatever happens to be, or you're in conflict somewhere, like there's something that's not resonating with you, I'm going to ask you, invite you, challenge you to look at what it is that is holding you back. What story do you have? What belief do you have? This whole concept of letting go is mostly rooted in beliefs, in the ways you see yourself and how other people will see you. That's the core of it. Imagine if you didn't have fear. Imagine if your story is like, you know what, this scares the hell out of me, but I'm going to choose to do it anyway, and I'm going to see what happens, and I'm going to trust that God's got my back. I'm going to trust that if I step into this unknown, I'm going to figure it out. It's the letting go, people. It's the letting go. It is surrendering to what is. I believe my best days are ahead of me. I believe my greatest love is in front of me. I believe the most amount of money that I've ever made is in front of me. And I've made a lot of money. I've had incredible love, intimacy. I think the best sex, everything's in front of me. Because I don't believe, with the path that I'm on, that the best that I've ever had, I've already experienced. Imagine looking at life that way. Oh yeah, the best days are behind me, and then I'm just going to live the rest of my life, you know. Really? What a shitty way to look at life. Listen, and a lot of people do. I'm not going to look at that. Or I'm not going to beat myself up for something that I did 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I'm going to let that go. That's not who I am. That's what I did. But how many of you actually have done some things? And listen, we've all done fucked up things. If you meet someone that says they haven't, run. Everybody has. But are you somebody that has tied your worth and identity to something you did 6 months ago, a year ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago? Do you understand the weight that carries and how that's just holding you back, that's like a ball and chain. Let that shit go. Let go. If you've got a lie or a secret that you haven't spoken to, if you betrayed, cheated, whatever it happens to be, that energetically, the energy to just keep that a secret, I promise you, is weighing you down 1,000 times more than ripping the Band-Aid off, letting it hit you and then moving on. I can tell you that from experience. It's letting go, guys. Letting go. So as I close up today, I really want you to really sit with this concept. Look at the parts of your life that you're really struggling. You feel stuck. You feel hopeless. There's no way out. What if it's just changing the thought around that? It's like, oh my gosh, I can't see it, but I know there's something. I'm going to trust that there's something on the other side. I'm going to choose to think differently. Even if you fake it for a minute, even energetically shifting that, it just allows you to move forward. Many times again, we have these stories, we just stay stuck and then we don't move. And then all of a sudden a week goes by, a month goes by, a year goes by, a decade goes by, all because of a story or a belief that we have that may or may not be accurate. And 9.9 times out of 10, it's not. You probably know people like that. How many people are just literally just going through the motions, zombies, miserable? And if you were to ask them, like, I should have done that, I could have done that, whatever. Here, I'm 48. I actually want to share this story in closing. When I lost my investment company, I had a gentleman, I posted a whole video. It was really raw, vulnerable. I talked about being suicidal on it. Scared me to death. Petrified. And the response that I got, hundreds of messages, DMs, words of compassion. Such a silver lining moment after 3 years of pure hell. But I'll never forget, I had a gentleman call me, and he called me a couple of days later. I hadn't talked to this guy in 10 years. We were friends on Facebook. I tried to buy his company actually 10 years previously. And he's like, hey, Adam, I saw your video. I'm like, yeah. He goes, can I share my story? So then he opened up, shared about his story, about him being suicidal, what he experienced. And literally only 2 or 3 people know. Again, I haven't talked to this guy in 10 years. He felt safe sharing it with me because I shared my experience. I opened the door to this. But what he said in that moment was something that I will never forget. He said, how cool is it at 45, you get a do-over? Who gets to start over at 45? Now, at the time when he said that, I did not feel that way. I had just lost reputation, relationships, friendship, millions of dollars, my identity. I was a mess. I did not see it that way. But here was a man looking at one particular thing. He had his perspective. I had mine at the time. And it was such a powerful moment because the power of a story. And now, and for some time now, I look at what I went through the same way he does. Who gets to start over? How cool is it that you get to start over at 45? Wild. So if somebody's going through, if you're like me and you're going through a huge financial crisis or things are happening, you've lost your business, something you did for 20 or 30 years. I was 20 plus years into this industry. The world was ending. I saw no light. No light. It's just a story. And believe it or not, I've never been more excited for life in my entire life. And I'm 48. I feel like I'm just getting started. Healthier than I've ever been, more confident than I've ever been. I'm more grounded as a man than I've ever been. And I can tell you that the root of all of it has been letting go and changing stories and narratives. Just by doing that helps me move forward through a lot of painful things. So let go, just find one thing, just one thing. I promise you, the main reason you're stuck isn't because you're not making the phone calls, isn't because you're not knocking the doors, not raising the money, having the conversations. It's what's underneath that's preventing it. Let's be honest, you're not making the calls that you need to because you're scared. You're avoiding that conversation with your wife because you're scared of what's going to happen when she hears it. What's it going to say about you? You're scared to go out and raise money for your business venture that inside you know is right. You just feel like you're going to kill it, but you're scared to ask for money because they might say no. It's the letting go. And when you can let go, change the story and put yourself out there and then just trust. And then if it works out, awesome. And if it doesn't, do the same practice again. I believe when a door shuts, most of the pain that we feel is because the door's shut, right? And we're trying to break it down. It's a sledgehammer. But what we don't recognize is when we're so fixated on the door that just closed, there's 10 more that just opened. 10 more. We just can't see it yet. So when a door closes, sit in it. This sucks. And then look down the hall. It's like, oh, there's another one. I'm going to go for it. Move through the attachment and detach from the outcome. And this is what I think is so funny. I have to remind myself of this. And this is just coming to me. What in life has ever turned out exactly the way you thought it was? What? No, it's never for me. Not one goddamn time. Not one single time. Most of the time, very different. Most of the time, many times I should say, right? Not the way I wanted it to. And there's been many times that it was better than I ever could have thought possible. Ever. Nothing goes this way. This is what's so funny. It's like, I came from the world from investments and like, hey, timelines and so forth, right? Trying to manage all that. I can tell you with certainty, it's like, whatever projections, hey, this is what we expect this investment to do. And 100% of the time, it's not going to hit that. It's either going to do more or less, period. I know this is going to happen by 5 years. Well, it's probably going to take 10. Just tack on a few extra years. I'm going to build this house and it's going to cost $1 million. Well, you were wrong. It's 2, right? Everything is different. Most of the time, things take longer. So when you can hey, this is the goal, hold the vision. I hope this is what I want. This is what I'm going after. You feel really called to something and this is the direction I'm going, hold the vision and then detach from the how, detach from the when and just move towards it and watch. Things are going to happen differently and things you thought you wanted, you might not want, but just learn to let go. And I'm actively doing it. And I've spent so much time. It was actually my intention last year was learning to accept what is. And I just got with a huge big one. There are layers to this. Just like Shrek said, right? Ogres have layers. So do we. Let go. And you get to a certain level, then there's more and there's more and there's more. Let go. I'm telling you, it'll change your life. And as I share this, it's just a reminder to me that the next time, because there will be another time, could be in 10 minutes, that I'm into something that I don't like, I'm going to actively, intentionally practice accepting what is, let go of whatever story I had attached to it, and move on. I appreciate each and every one of you for supporting me and supporting this podcast. We'll see you next week. Thank you.